what is thin content, quote unquote thin content, and how do I avoid this? One of the things we've talked a lot today, that I feel like this entire episode's been a lot about Google. One of the things Google frowns upon is what they call thin content. And that's content that's doesn't have a lot of meat and potatoes, for lack of a better term. Say you're trying to come up for specific keywords or key phrases, and you just create like a blog post on your website that just has a couple of sentences. It doesn't have a handful of paragraphs or anything. It just has a couple of sentences that, and then you're trying to put that out there as a piece of content. If there's not a lot of information, it's not really informative, and it's not written in such a way that a reader would get some valuable information or, from that piece of content. Google's going to view it as thin content. It's going to view it as you trying to game the system in order to try to come up for SEO. And again, increasingly, when Google sees this, it can actually hurt your SEO rankings, not help your SEO rankings. So thin content, if you want some like metrics to think about, like what exactly would constitute thin content, one of the things we shoot for internally is that all content that we write, like a blog article or a portfolio piece or things like that, are over 300 words in length. So, that's typically going to be a handful of paragraphs. You're going to have an intro paragraph. You're going to have a paragraph that really talks about the main meat and potatoes. And then you're going to have, a conclusion that probably gives contact information for your company and things like that. But be thinking about it along the lines of 300 words of content. That's kind of what we look at as the basement for not falling into thin content. We want all the content we generate online for our clients to be at least 300 words or longer, and we want it to be informative. We want it that if you actually read the content, that you would learn something during that content, that it's not just, I don't want to say gibberish, because a lot of people don't just put gibberish, but my point is that it's not just a bunch of sentences linked together to try to stuff it with keywords that don't make a whole lot of sense when read together. You want to have 300 words, and you want to have a natural structure like we learned back in school, like an introduction, then the meat and potatoes of the content, and then a conclusion of the content, and it'd be 300 words. I think if you follow that type of structure, you're going to be building decent content on your website that's going to be optimized for the right type of keywords if you've done the keyword research like we talked about in the last question. So hopefully, again, thin content is really one of those things where people try to generate a lot of different pages on their website in an effort that they think is going to help their SEO, and they can actually end up hurting their SEO. So avoid that thin content. Shoot for 300 words or more. 300 to 600 words is a good sweet spot for that, the amount of content.